Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. But before we get to that next great interview, please do us a favor and subscribe. That would really help us out. Father and son team, small town West Virginia, we could really use the support. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm pretty excited. Today, I have got author Peggy Gerber with me. So welcome, Peggy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you were so nice. We were supposed to do this a week or two ago, and I got sick, and you allowed me to reschedule. We could have done it, but it wouldn't have been a good interview.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem. You know what? Things happen.
So we have to talk about your new book. Mm-hmm. And you're the new Open Contract Challenge winner, our third one on the program. I'm so proud of that. But before we do all that, let's talk about you a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and when did you get into writing? What made you want to become an author?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. 3 years ago, my youngest child flew the coop. And all of a sudden, my life before had been wrapped up very much in my children's lives. And all of a sudden I had a lot of extra time. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I saw the local community center had a writing class. And I thought, you know what? I've always liked writing. So I signed up. I really enjoyed it. 6 months later, I started submitting things and my things started getting published.
Amazing.
And that was it. It just took off from there.
It's not supposed to be that easy.
So I've had about 80 things published so far in the 2.5 years since I've been submitting.
I mean, that's amazing.
It is amazing. I also have well over 100 rejections. Those aren't fun.
No, I would have trouble with that. I have trouble with that when people tell me no for the podcast. I'm like, oh.
Who would say no?
You would be surprised. I'll tell you my favorite no. This was my favorite no that I received. I couldn't even get upset about it. I sent a note to Mr. T. You know who Mr. T is?
Oh, sure, of course.
I sent a note to his manager, and I did my little spiel about we'd like to have Mr. T on the show. And he just sent back, it was just one sentence with no punctuation. It just said, T is not interested. That was it.
It sounds like him.
I thought that's what I said. I was like,
yeah,
I think Mr. T may have answered directly.
Yeah, I think so.
So you just started writing kind of later in life. Yeah. So what did you do up until that point? What did you study during school? Did you go to college? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm actually a registered dietitian.
Oh, very nice.
I worked in the field for a while, and then there were certain circumstances with my kids where I ended up being a stay-home mom for a bunch of years. Did tons of volunteer work, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. I worked in food pantries. I was also a foster parent for 10 years. So that's like
you get busy.
That's a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good for you though. That's very admirable to help children out and bring them into your home like that. I mean, that's pretty great. And also extremely busy.
Yeah.
So and you're a writer. Do you have any plans to write like a book along the lines of dietitian?
No, you know what? The only writing I've done in the past are nutrition articles. It was fun for a while, but I enjoy so much more writing stories and poems.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm so in awe of your writing. I thought the book, and let me get the name right, Stumbling in CrazyTown, which is that's a great title.
Oh, thank you.
But it's really good. So it's a book of poetry, and the poems, they're kind of at times can be self-deprecating, They can
Yes.
be very positive. You know, they've got some humor in it. I thought that was really good. So, what time during your life or during the writing process did you kind of figure out, hey, I'm actually pretty good at poetry? Because that's not an easy skill.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I ever figured it out. I started writing poetry 3 years ago, and when I look at the poetry I wrote then, like appalled. But I took some writing classes, and you know what? Anytime I see like a free writing class online, I sign up for it because I feel like I'm still in the process of learning and I want to learn so much more.
Yeah, I think that's great. So what is your process when you write? Do you make yourself write every day? Do you write when you're inspired? When do you sit down to write?
Yeah, so I'm not the type that writes every single day. I write when I'm inspired, but with this book, I had some deadlines. So I had to,
yes, you did.
I said, okay, 2 weeks from now, the whole
well,
book
let's talk about the open contract challenge. So tell me a little bit about, how does that work? Because it is set up with deadlines. So what do you initially turn in, and then what do you have to provide as the contest goes along?
Okay, so let me just say the open contract challenge again opens on March 20th. And
it's already time again.
Yes. It is an opportunity for somebody that's just thinking about writing a book or has an idea that's been, in their head for a while. You just send in a pitch. That's it. And they pick out 20 pitches that they like. And then they narrow it down to 10. And then you send in your first chapter. And then you send in a synopsis. And then finally you send in the whole book.
I think that's so great. That's such a great idea.
It really is. I'll tell you something. When I saw my name on the cover of a book, there is nothing like it. It's amazing.
I would think that it's similar to if you were a musician, especially back when I was growing up, if you heard your song played on a radio station, it'd be similar to that. Something that you might not ever think would happen, and then it happens and you're like, oh,
right,
that's my book.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about the book. So it's Stumbling in CrazyTown.
Okay, let me just say, so anybody that's thinking of entering this contest, it's www.opencontractchallenge.com. And like I said, if you even have an idea in your head, just do it. Opportunity does not knock that often. So when it does, open the door.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pitch. And we'll touch on that again at the end because I want people to apply. So have you been doing the book circuit or convention circuit with Walter?
So I've done a couple of podcasts so far. This one's my third.
All right.
The first one is where it's been only me. But really, that's all I've done with that. I mean, promoting the book is as hard as writing the book.
Yeah.
Because, a million books are published every single year. And to get yourself a little bit of attention is really, really difficult. So I've been, trying to get bloggers to read my book. Paid an influencer to put it on her page. So yeah, I mean, I'm working hard to try to get people to notice.
Yeah, and you're right. Getting eyes on any product or anything that you've done is actually the hardest part. Even if it's really, really good, which your book is.
Yeah, thank you.
Which is why the open contract challenge is such a great thing, because it helps you to get those eyes on the.
Yes.
Yeah. So will you be like are you judging for next year?
I am.
I had a feeling.
I am so excited about that. I will not be judging at the beginning. I'm going to pick out the final winner.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. I know Walter Esselman, who won the previous one. It made him more nervous being kind of a judge, to have that power to
Yeah,
that made him more nervous than actually writing his book.
It is very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so terrific. Okay, so Stumbling in CrazyTown, where did you come up with the idea, and what exactly is the book about?
Okay, so it's about my mental health challenges. I have an anxiety disorder. About 3 years ago, it was probably as bad as it had ever been. And I started writing poetry. And the poetry was like therapy for me. It's almost like I purged some of the anxiety by putting it down on paper.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and along the way, I learned a lot of things. For example, how to reframe a situation. When you have anxiety, depression, you tend to see the glass is half empty all the time. But if you can reframe that situation, it's not that the bad thing goes away, but you can deal with it a lot easier.
Does it help you just getting it out and putting it on a page?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It feels good to write.
That's good. That's really good. So my son, who does this podcast with me, but he handles the hard stuff. He does all the editing and the tough stuff. And he won't mind me saying this because he's talked about it on the show. But he when he was a freshman in high school, we played football, got a really severe concussion. And since then, he has struggled with depression, anxiety. What has helped him is writing. And it's been excellent. Yeah, it's been a kind of a revelation for both of us, because it turns out he's actually really good at it. So I get the need to kind of put those feelings, down, to just get them out, into the open as a kind of therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the best things about this book is I get to come on shows like yours and talk about it as if it's a normal thing. I mean, there's still a stigma and people still want to talk about it. And if you look at some of the websites, people keep saying over and over again, I'm so lonely. There's nobody that I can talk to. We really need to normalize it so that people can just talk about it. I mean, one of the reviewers of my book said, oh, Peggy Gerber was so brave to write this book. And I thought, you know what? Maybe she's right because of the stigma, but I want to make it so that one day it's not brave to write a book like that or to talk about something like that you can talk about your mental illness just like you're talking about a migraine.
Yeah, I love that. Just normalize it. I think that's such a great idea. So the last poem in the book is called Stigma. Is that talking about, this issue where it is kind of difficult to talk about mental illness?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people are so afraid of being judged.
That's the truth. We're really good at judging, but we struggle with being judged.
We really are.
Now, I think that's great. So is there a poem in the book that's your favorite?
Yeah, you know what? The one that the book was named after, Stumbling in CrazyTown, because I think that's just a really good description of how I felt. So what I say is that I felt like a trapped bird, inside my head. And that's what I felt like. I was trapped inside my head. I just couldn't get out. And you know what? I felt like that for an entire year before I asked for help. I was afraid to ask for help. I was afraid, of people judging me. Like I was even afraid of saying something to my husband, like, oh, my husband's going to say, oh, there she goes again. But you know what? I asked for help and I got it.
Oh, good for him. That's good husbanding.
Yeah, well, he didn't know what to do. So he called my daughter, who happens to be a pediatrician, and her husband happened to have a colleague who was a psychiatrist. And she said, oh, come on in. And that was the first step in my healing.
I think that's a big deal because just like you said with the stigma, people have a stigma about going to get help with mental illness. And that's, I mean, you don't, like, if you're sick, you don't feel bad about having to go to a doctor. So why would you feel bad about going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist to get help with a mental problem?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's really good. So I had a couple that I really liked, and it started with the first poem in the book, The Unpretentious Poet.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. That was great. It was very, it was kind of tongue in cheek, and it asked, if you're a unpretentious reader, then come on in. Let's read this together.
You know what? I happen to love reading poetry, but I don't like reading the type of poetry where you have to sit down for hours and analyze it line by line.
Right.
And I'm sure half the things that you're analyzing are not what the writer meant in the first place. I feel like sometimes there's rain just because it's raining, not because it's a symbol, not because something's bad's going to happen, because the other author just wanted it to be raining. And so, so I don't want anybody to have a PhD to read this book.
Yeah, I really like that, because I think, all of us, when we go through school, you go through those English classes where you have to dissect the poetry and stuff. And I think a lot of times those type of poems, which are great in their way, but they can turn some people off because it's so difficult to understand the symbolism.
Yeah, it really is.
Instead of just saying what you mean.
Exactly.
So a couple others I wanted to mention, Love Letter to Myself, which I thought is such a great a poem, because that's something that we should all be doing with ourselves. So talk about that one for a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wrote that poem because I think it's all the women in this country, like everyone, looks in the mirror and they don't see the beautiful things about themselves. They only see the flaws. They see the scar, or they see a nose is a little bit too big, or their legs are a little bit too fat. And you know what? Everyone is just beautiful, and you have to look in the mirror and appreciate what you see. And you know what? That's been a problem of mine for years. And so sometimes I just read that poem to remind myself.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I think it's so important to be able to do that for yourself. Because, unfortunately, you run into a lot of people that they're not going to tell you the positive things. It can be a little negative. Right. So you need to be able to do that, for yourself. I think that's really important. Right. It's a good message.
Right. And you know what? We live in a culture that is kind of youth obsessed. And so as people grow older, they start to sort of feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
Which is my next book.
Well, that was my next question is, are we going to get a sequel to this book?
Well, no, it's not going to be a sequel, but you want to know something? Before I wrote this book and before I entered the contest, I didn't know I had it in me to write a book. And then I wrote one. And then I thought, you know what? I did it once. I can do it again.
That's right.
And so I did.
So is it done?
It is done. Yes.
All right. So what's the name of this book?
It's called The Big Indignity, and it's a poetry book about growing older in this society.
Oh, I want to read that one. Yeah, okay. I think that's because being, as I get older, you start seeing, like your perception changes. The way you look at things changes, because you get to it's weird, because like I'm in a situation where I'm kind of in the middle, and my father is getting older now. He's in the twilight of his life, and then my son is just starting out, and I have this. I'm kind of seeing that journey, at the different stages with the three of us, and it can be very difficult at times. Yeah. Really appreciating the aging process and not getting upset about it. So I would be really interested in that.
Right. Well, thank you.
When can we expect that one?
Well, it will have to get published, so we'll see what happens with that.
I have it on good authority. Some people that could help with that.
Well, I actually am a very, very big fan of contests. So I did enter it in a contest.
Oh, we'll see. All right. I'll cross my fingers for that one. Okay. So do you write about other things non-poetry wise?
Yes, I do. I love writing science fiction stories. Ooh. I love writing about time machines and aliens. Sometimes I write some horror stories. You know what? One of the things that I love to do is write 100-word stories.
Yeah.
It's really a challenge to come up with a story that's going to get an emotional response for someone with just 100 words.
Yeah, that's not that many words.
No, it's not many words. I actually often write for this publication called 101words.org. And so my stories have been shared many, many times on social media. And it just really makes me feel so good that my stories have resonated with people with just 101 words.
Yeah, that's a sign of a really good writer, I think, because you have to grab people quick if you've only got.
You do very quickly. Yes. And one of the things that was shared the most, I wrote about a woman that was suffering with depression, and that was shared many, many times on social media. So that was great.
What's your process with that? Like, do you have a word at the beginning or the sentence at the beginning that's just like, you know, does it take you aback so that it draws people in? How do you draw people in that quickly?
Well, generally when I write a story that, 101 words, I'll start off with 200 words and then, chip it down little by little by little, keeping in the most important words. You really have to choose your words carefully.
I could try that, and by the end, it would make no sense. I'd have had to take out so much, there would be nothing left.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like doing a puzzle. It's really a fun challenge.
No, it's smart too, because even if you weren't getting things published, that type of exercise really good for keeping your mind sharp. So that's
Absolutely
really good. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
really good.
Yeah. And my ideas usually come from things that have actually happened. Like that story on depression. When I wasn't feeling well, I called my brother and I was telling him all about my struggles. And he said, I don't get it. You have a nice husband. You have nice kids. Like, just snap out of it. It's like, you know what? I didn't choose to have an anxiety disorder. It's not something that's under my control right now. And so my story was called Just Snap Out of It.
Yeah, I like that, because we've all been there, where somebody has told us, just get over it. Well, if it was that easy, we'd have done it.
Exactly.
What books did you enjoy growing up? Did you have favorite authors or book series?
Oh gosh, I love Judy Bloom.
Oh yeah.
Who doesn't?
Judy Bloom was very racy when I was growing up.
It was, I know.
Nowadays, not that big a deal, but back then it was kind of racy.
Yeah. I always liked science fiction books about magic, books about witches.
Yeah, now you're talking my language.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, of course. It's such a great series.
Yeah, I don't understand people that aren't. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
I used to make fun of my son because he was, when he was growing up, he was the type of kid that if everybody liked it, he didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want anything to do with it. So he was just like refusing.
I have one of those myself. Yes.
Yeah. And he just refused to read the books. He refused to watch the movies, anything. And then a year or two ago, he came to me and he said, Dad, I think I kind of like Harry Potter. I was like, really?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. My son is exactly the same way. He wouldn't read the books, wouldn't see the movies. Now that he has his own child, we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, he'll be watching them now.
I think so.
That's the best part, I think, of being a parent, is the ability to share things that you enjoy or that you love with your child or grandchild.
Yeah,
for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you talk going forward, when you talk to your grandchildren about your poetry and some of your writing, how will you talk about the mental issue side of it? How do you pass that on to them as they're growing up, so that they don't think that it's a stigma or an issue?
Yeah, I mean, we just really normalize it in my family now. It's just, mom has anxiety. And, sometimes one of my kids will have a little problem. I'll just say, sorry, you got my genes. And, nobody takes the blame for it. It's in our genes, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think, when you really have the support of your family, they know when you need to be left alone or need some quiet time, or if you don't, those times where maybe that's not what you need. You need to be drawn.
You know what? You want to know something though? Sometimes they don't know, and you have to tell them. I mean, so often we think that our spouses or our kids can read our minds and know, but very often they don't know, and you do have to tell them.
Yeah, I say that to my wife a lot. I tell her, don't give me hints. Don't just state what you mean. If you need something, just tell me. Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I won't, but let's not take the chance. Just tell me.
Right. That's it. We're not mind readers.
That's right. That's exactly right. So how is the family's reaction been to you getting your book published?
My husband's very excited. I mean, he went out and told everybody. Well, my kids bought my book. That's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign. Yeah. And, my friends that have read it have come back with a lot of positive feedback, which is really exciting for me.
Yeah.
When you write a book or even a little story, you're really putting yourself out there for judgment, and you just never know what's going to happen. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. You're opening yourself up, and it's dangerous. I think if you already have anxiety, I mean, what if it comes back badly? That could go poorly.
Yeah. Plus, you know what? There's a lot of internet trolls that just want to say something bad for absolutely no reason.
Isn't that the truth? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Somebody on social media said, I hate the cover of your book. It's so stupid. What? I love the cover of my book. I think that the artist who designed it, Jenna Sparks, is a genius.
Do you have the book there? Can you show us the cover?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah. I love that. That's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know what they're talking about.
No.
That's a good question, though. How did you find an artist to do the cover for you?
That is the beauty of the Open Contract Challenge. It comes with somebody that's going to format it for you, somebody that's going to register the copyright, and it comes with Jenna Sparks, who is a brilliant artist.
Boy, that's terrific. I mean,
really
what else would you need?
Exactly. And she works with you. She says, let me have some ideas of what you would like, and then I'll work with it. And, all along the way, she says, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? So it was really lovely working with her.
Yeah, pretty good. So you write a little bit of horror.
I do.
I'm a big chicken. So are we talking more the Alfred Hitchcock type of horror, or is it more Stephen King? Is it more like a build-up suspense type of horror, or is it the kind that I'm probably going to have to put the book down and walk away? So
I'm going to say more Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, that's more my kind of horror, because I'm big chicken.
Yeah.
I've got this memory from when I was pretty young, probably 7 or 8 years old, and I was reading a big book of Alfred Hitchcock short stories. And I remember sitting on the bed and I'm reading that book, and it started storming outside, and I had the tree banging up against the window and stuff. But that was the good type of scary. That didn't stick with me later. That was just, it was fun to be in that kind of moment. So I like those type.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like horror movies. When I saw The Exorcist as a kid, I had nightmares for 2 months.
That movie is still scary to this day.
When her head starts spinning around.
Oh, goodness. That's one of the few horror movies, I think, that hold up over time, because, for the special effects and things, usually if you watch movies made in the 70s and 80s, they're not as scary now because the special effects are very obvious compared to what we have today. But that one holds up. That's scary.
Yeah. I watched it that one time and never again.
Yeah. I think that's all I've seen is one time.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Exactly.
They had a picture in our Sunday newspaper this week, and it was of a theater that was here local, but from back in the it must have been back in the 70s when The Exorcist came out, and they showed the line of people went down the block and around the block waiting to get in to see that movie. And I thought, well, that's pretty neat, because when I saw it, I probably watched it on television. I don't think I seen it at the theater because I was too young. But
much worse in the theater.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
And plus, you know how it is when you get, like, when other people are also getting scared, worse. It like magnifies.
Yes. When other people are screaming,
it just puts you on edge.
It really does.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So are your when you write about time machines, what are we talking? Are we talking time travel or actual time machines?
No, actual time machines that people do. Yeah. You know what? I had a great grandfather that was murdered when he was 26 years old, and his name was Aaron. And I just wanted to write a story with his name in it. So I wrote a story called Saving Aaron, and it was about going back in time and saving a child named Aaron and all the consequences that come from that.
Well, that's really interesting, because I can see where you'd root for the outcome of saving Aaron, but then you don't think about all the unintended consequences that might happen, because you saved Aaron.
Right. Absolutely. Actually, it was about a mother whose child, Aaron, was killed in a car accident.
Yeah.
And she goes back in time and actually kills the person who killed him, so that can't take place. But then there's all the consequences. Well, now this other boy is dead, and now his family is suffering, and everything has changed.
What a neat angle to look at that from. Yeah, that's really good. You've got some really good ideas, especially for starting to write just a few years ago. I mean, those are really good ideas.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. So do you have any ambition as far as trying to write, like a television script or a movie script?
Oh, I wish I could do that. Not really. I'll stick with books.
You never know.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to write that's going to inspire somebody to do something.
That's definitely true. Yeah. If the right person reads your story, it can really turn into something.
Yeah, you never know.
Right.
So what do you, outside of writing, what do you do for fun?
I love reading. Love taking online classes.
Yeah.
I love playing with my grandchildren. They range in age from 6 years old to 2 months old.
Oh, wow.
So they're really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fun or time well spent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about one of the descriptions on Stumbling into CrazyTown was the peaks and valleys of living with depression. So what are some of the peaks of living with depression?
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I think one of the peaks is when you're feeling good and you're having a good couple of months, you really appreciate it, like really appreciate it. When I wake up and I'm having a good day, like I take out my gratitude journal and I say, I'm feeling great today.
Yeah, I love that.
I just never take a good day for granted.
Oh, that's a good mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So when you're having a not so good a day, do you go back and read some of your poetry?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I definitely think about it. So I wrote a poem, I Live in the Woods. I've been struggling with anxiety for about 25 years. And I would have like a bout with it, and then I'd get better and I'd say, okay, I'm done. And then it would happen again. And then I'd get better and I'd say, I'm done. All of a sudden, this time around, it dawned on me, it's a chronic condition. You're not done. You just have good times and bad times.
That's
Celebrate the good times. And when you're having a bad time, don't get mad at yourself. Just show yourself some compassion, because it's not your fault. And if it were happening to a friend, you would show a friend compassion.
Sure.
So just show it to yourself.
Yeah, it's really good. So have you been able to identify like things that might trigger a not so good day and avoid those?
Yeah, just when I'm stressing about something, stressing about a doctor's appointment or my husband's doctor's appointment.
Yeah, it's worry related.
Yeah, it's always worry related.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So do you, going forward, you've already got another book that's written. Do you have plans for other books down the road?
I actually do. So I love writing short stories. I would love to put my stories together in a collection.
Oh, people love those type of anthology short story books. Yeah, you should do that.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, you definitely should do that. So what would it be, poetry, or would it be like different types of stories?
I think it would be a book of speculative fiction.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things that could be.
Yeah, I like writing about aliens, but not so much from the aliens' point of view, from the humans' point of view.
You know, I think that's a really neat angle, because when you think about, how would you react, legitimately if you were dealing with an alien?
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of a neat angle to look at it from.
Right.
Just because normally when you get those type of movies or books, you get kind of both sides. They try to give you the side of the alien and stuff,
right?
But you wouldn't have any idea, what you were actually dealing with if that happened. I think that's a neat idea for a story, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, Peggy, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time with me. I love the book. So much. Yeah, you're so talented.
Much. Thank you.
but a couple things before we wrap up.
Sure.
Anything else that you're working on, or do you have any live events? Are you doing any readings, anything like that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Well, one of the beautiful things about the Open Contract Challenge is you get to go to a convention in California. They fly you out there. So that, I think, is going to be on June 5th. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, you'll get to meet some neat people at that convention. Conventions are fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. That'll be a lot of fun. Will you bring your husband along to like keep track of things and to be like your assistant sitting there?
Well, you know what? We haven't gone anywhere in 3 years because of this pandemic. Yeah. So yes, I will be bringing him, and we'll turn it into a real vacation.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so great out there. Yeah. You'll have a good time with that. So, okay. So last thing before you go, let's go over all the stuff for the Open Contract Challenge, and then where we can find you and your work on social media.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually have a website.
I know.
It is, Peggy Sue 445.wixsite wixsite.com/my-site. Very
nice. Yeah, that's you got to have a website if you're an author.
You have to have a website. Yep.
Yes. Are you on any of the social media, Facebook, Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't really have any followers, so I don't really use it that often, but it's at
that may change.
445.
That could change now that you got a book out.
I hope so.
Yeah. So give us again where, if we have listeners who are interested in the Open Contract Challenge, where can they go?
Yeah, so it's www.opencontractchallenge.com.
Yeah, easy enough. And the new season, let's call it,
March
starts
20th,
on March the 20th.
And there's nothing to lose. Just send in your pitch. How
long do they have to get, when does that first round end? How long do they have to get their first idea?
I think it's about a month.
Yeah. Okay, so they've got a little bit of time, but they need to get moving.
Yeah, right. They do give you ample time in between each section.
Oh, that's good.
They don't just say, okay, in 2 days, give me the first chapter. They give you a few weeks to do it, so you do have time. It's not that pressure.
Yeah, I like that because it's step by step. So it almost walks you through
exactly.
Making a book. It's very stepped, which I hadn't seen before in a contest. I'm sure there's some out there, but this was the first one I'd seen. Right. I thought that's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming at any point.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Peggy.
I was just going to say, and Walter Esselman is the director of the Open Contract Challenge, and you cannot meet a nicer guy in the world. We are huge fans of Walter. Walter's been on the show a couple of times, and I totally agree with that. Just the best. He's terrific. Yes. But now he's got help. Now you're going to be helping him out. Yes, so excited. I know he's excited too. I know he's excited to have some help. So that's terrific. Peggy, you have to come back when you get this next book out. You gotta holler at me, and we'll talk about it too. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been fun. Yeah. Okay, hang on one second. All right, so that was the talented Peggy Gerber. I mean, how fun was that? She didn't start writing till just a couple of years ago, and she's really good at it. So definitely do yourself a favor and find her book. So it's called Stumbling in CrazyTown. And if you're a poetry lover, you're going to love it. If you're not a poetry lover, you're going to love it, because I was talking to her off camera. It's difficult to write a book of poetry that appeals to a large group. And this is it. It has a positive message. It deals with a subject that's difficult, but does it in a way that has a little bit of humor. Really good book. If you know somebody that's struggling with some mental illness, it's a good book for them. Think about that for a present. I think they would really enjoy it. OpenContractChallenge.com. Make sure you check that out. If you're a writer, you need to be getting your ideas in there. What do you have to lose? And it's, Peggy was our third winner that we've had on the show, and it's just such a great contest. So please do yourself a favor, writers, get your work and your ideas turned in. You will not regret it, promise. Okay, if you guys haven't done so yet, you've been so great to come back to us week after week, and we appreciate that so much. But if you haven't done so yet, we could use your subscription. It's YouTube, MeisterCon Pod. We show the videos. If you would subscribe, it would really help us out. You can also find all 350 or so episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. It's got a well-written, funny, geeky blog from Brett. It's got any information if we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, if we're covering conventions, all that'll be on the website, meistercon.com. So thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye, everybody.